What if I told you that some of the strongest, most beautiful furniture in the world is built by hand? No power tools, no glue guns, and sometimes in under an hour. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you think building solid, heirloom quality furniture takes fancy machines, expensive kits, or weeks of work, think again. Because today, we're diving into how Amish built their entire furniture set in 60 minutes. Without power tools, the Amish build stunning, rock-solid furniture from scratch, using only hand tools, timeless techniques, and decades of skill. Spoiler alert, it's not magic, it's muscle memory, mastery, and centuries-old tradition passed down like a secret family recipe. In this video, I'm taking you step by step through their entire process. From picking perfect hardwood like it's grandma's apple pie secret, to cutting joints tighter than your tax audit, to finishing wood so smooth it feels like silk. Stick around, because by the end of this, you might just rethink everything you thought you knew about furniture making. If you've ever tried building something with soft, cheap wood, you already know how it ends. Wobbly shelves, warped tabletops, and maybe even a few broken pieces after just a few months. That's exactly why the Amish start with the best possible materials. They don't mess around with flimsy stuff. No way. They go straight for the heavy hitters, hardwoods like oak, cherry, maple, and sometimes walnut. These aren't just random names. These are the all-star players of the lumber world. Think of them like the LeBron James, Serena Williams, and Tom Brady of wood. Strong, reliable, and built to last. Oak is like that tough-as-nails grandpa who still cuts his own firewood. It's super dense, holds up to wear and tear, and gets even better with age. Maple? That's your smooth cousin who always looks sharp. It has a fine grain and takes lighter stains beautifully. Cherry is the elegant aunt who only gets more stunning over time. Expose it to light and watch it darken into a deep, rich colour. And then there's walnut, the suave uncle who always knows how to make an entrance. Dark, classy, and full of character. The Amish don't just grab whatever wood they find. Oh no, they're extremely careful when picking each piece. Every plank, every board, every inch of wood is inspected like it's going on a first date. No cracks, no warping, no weak spots, just perfect, high-quality lumber. And here's the kicker. They often get this wood locally. Some Amish communities even run their own sawmills so they can control the quality from start to finish. This isn't about convenience, it's about craftsmanship. They're not running down to the nearest home improvement store for a bulk deal. Nope. They take pride in knowing where their wood comes from. Now, why does this matter so much? Because if the wood isn't properly dried or aged, it could shrink, warp, or crack later. Imagine building a beautiful table, and 6 months later, it's warped like a potato chip. Not fun. That's why the Amish dry their wood carefully. Either they let it air dry for months in a shed, or use a kiln to speed things up. Think of it like aging a good steak, or drying out dough before baking. Moisture is the enemy here. Too much of it, and your furniture won't hold up. This step alone saves them a ton of headaches later. No wobbly chairs, no creaky tables, just solid, dependable furniture that stands the test of time. Another cool thing, the Amish understand that each type of wood has its own personality. Oak is heavy-duty, maple is smooth, cherry is stylish, walnut is bold. So depending on what they're building, they'll pick the wood that fits best. Want a sturdy dining table that'll handle years of family dinners? Oak is your guy. Need a sleek dresser that shows off natural beauty? Cherry might be the way to go. Looking for something with a rich, dark finish? Grab some walnut. They treat each piece like it's special, like it matters, because to them, it does. And while it may seem like extra work, it actually saves time in the long run. Because once you've got the right wood, everything else flows easier. cuts are cleaner, joints fit better, finishes look smoother. It's like cooking. If you start with fresh ingredients, your meal will taste better. Same goes for furniture. If you start with top-notch wood, your final product will shine. Also, because they source their wood locally, they reduce waste and support nearby forests. No need to ship lumber across the country. Less fuel used, less pollution created. It's eco-friendly without trying too hard. The Amish live simply, but that doesn't mean they cut corners. Far from it. They invest time up front so they don't have to fix mistakes later. It's smart, it's sustainable, and most importantly, it works. You don't have to be Amish to learn from this approach. Whether you're building a shelf or refinishing an old table, the same rule applies. Start with quality materials. Don't settle for second best, because in the end, your furniture is only as strong as the wood it's made from. And speaking of strength, did you know that oak is so durable it's often used in boat building? Yep. If you wanted to build a canoe from your dining table, you technically could. Probably wouldn't recommend it, but hey, it tells you something about the strength of the wood. Cherry? It's not just pretty, it's stable. It resists shrinking and swelling, which makes it perfect for furniture that needs to handle changes in humidity. Maple? Super hard. Perfect for tabletops or cutting boards that take a beating. Walnut? Dense and naturally resistant to rot. Ideal for pieces that need both durability and style. So when the Amish are picking their wood, they're not just thinking about how it looks. They're thinking about how it performs, how it behaves over time, how it reacts to different conditions. They've learned this through experience, through decades, even centuries of trial and error. That's why they don't rush this part. They take their time. They inspect every plank. They test the weight, the texture, the grain pattern. They even smell the wood sometimes. Yeah, seriously. Because believe it or not, experienced woodworkers can tell a lot just by the scent. Different woods have different aromas. Some smell sweet, others earthy, and some, well, not so pleasant. But that's another story. Bottom line, the Amish treat wood like gold, with care, with respect, and with the knowledge that it's the foundation of everything they build. So next time you see a piece of Amish furniture, remember, it didn't start with tools or joints or finishes. It started with a single decision: choosing the right wood. That's where the magic begins. Once the Amish have their hands on top quality wood, it's time to get to work. But not just any kind of work. Careful, thoughtful prep work. You wouldn't start cooking dinner without washing the veggies or chopping the onions, right? Same idea here. Before any assembly happens, every piece of wood has to be measured, cut, and smoothed by hand. No power tools, no electric saws, just good old-fashioned skill, patience, and a whole lot of experience. So how do they pull this off so fast? Well, for starters, they don't rush. They take their time up front so they can move quickly later. That might sound backwards, but trust me, it works. They measure everything twice. Then they mark each board with a sharp pencil or marking knife. Every cut is planned, every angle is checked, because once you slice through solid oak or maple, there's no going back. And let's be real, nobody wants to end up with a half-finished table because one leg is shorter than the others. The Amish avoid that mess by being super precise from the very beginning. They use simple tools like squares, rulers, and sometimes even homemade jigs to keep everything straight and consistent. These aren't fancy gadgets. Some of them have been passed down for generations. But they do the job, and they do it well. Now, when it comes to cutting, again, no power saws. Instead, they rely on hand saws, chisels, and planes. And somehow, they still make clean, accurate cuts that fit together perfectly. It's like watching a chef chop vegetables at lightning speed. Only instead of onions, it's thick slabs of hardwood. Here's the thing. Most people assume using hand tools would slow things down. But the Amish prove that wrong. Because they've done this thousands of times, they know exactly how much pressure to apply, how fast to move, and which tool to grab next. It's muscle memory. Pure and simple. They also don't waste time searching for tools. Everything has its place. Their workspace is tidy, organized, ready for action. No clutter, no distractions, just smooth workflow. That's another reason they move so fast. They're not fumbling around looking for a missing chisel or trying to untangle a pile of sandpaper. Once the pieces are cut, they start shaping and smoothing them out. This is where the planes come in handy. A plane is like a handheld sander, only way cooler. It shaves off thin layers of wood until the surface is silky smooth. Some might even use scrapers or fine grit sandpaper for the final touches. Again, all by hand, all with care. But why go through all this trouble? Because once you start assembling the furniture, you want everything to fit like puzzle pieces. No gaps, no misaligned joints, just perfect alignment. And that's only possible if every single piece is prepped ahead of time. Think of it like baking a cake. If you chop the apples, measure the flour, and mix the batter before you turn on the oven, the whole process goes smoothly. Same goes for furniture making. The Amish believe in doing the hard work up front. That way, when it's time to put everything together, it's just a matter of snapping the pieces into place. No guesswork, no last-minute adjustments, just pure efficiency. Another cool trick they use: dry fitting. Before any glue is applied, they test how everything fits. They assemble the pieces without any adhesive to see if everything lines up. If something doesn't fit quite right, they tweak it before moving forward. This step saves them from having to fix mistakes later. And trust me, fixing a mistake after the glue dries is about as fun as stepping on a Lego barefoot. By carefully preparing each piece, the Amish set themselves up for success. They reduce errors, they save time, and they create furniture that's built to last. Plus, since they've already done all the hard work, the actual assembly feels almost effortless. They don't need fancy machines, they don't need high-tech tools, just steady hands, sharp blades, and decades of practice. And while it may look slow to the untrained eye, it's actually lightning-fast craftsmanship. Because preparation isn't about slowing things down, it's about speeding up the entire process by eliminating mistakes and streamlining each step. So while the rest of us are struggling to line up two boards straight, the Amish are already halfway through building a sturdy dining table. Impressive, right? In short, preparation is where the magic begins. It's the foundation of fast, flawless furniture making. And the Amish have mastered it like nobody else. Once the Amish have their top quality wood all prepped and ready, they move on to one of the biggest time savers in the whole process: design and pre-cutting. Now, you might think that building furniture by hand takes forever. But the Amish prove otherwise, and a big reason for that is how smart they are with design. They don't go for over-the-top details or complex carvings unless it's a special piece. Instead, they stick with simple, functional designs that have been perfected over generations. Think of it like this: if you're trying to get somewhere fast, do you take the scenic route with a dozen turns? Or do you follow a straight path with no detours? The Amish choose the straight path every time. Their furniture has clean lines, solid shapes, and minimal fuss. That means fewer cuts, fewer joints, and way fewer chances for something to go wrong. This isn't about being lazy, it's about being smart. A classic example is the shaker-style chair. It looks simple, but it's built to last. No fancy curves, no extra pieces, just strong, straightforward joinery that fits together perfectly. And because the design is so clean, the Amish can build these chairs faster than most people could with power tools. Another big secret: they plan everything out before they even pick up a saw. Every cut is measured twice. Every angle is marked clearly. There's no guessing, no mid-project changes. It's like cooking a meal without a recipe, except somehow it still comes out perfect. They use tried and true blueprints passed down through families. Some Amish craftsmen even memorize the measurements after years of repetition. That kind of muscle memory makes the whole process lightning fast. But here's where the real magic happens: pre-cutting. Before any assembly begins, the Amish make sure every single piece of wood is already cut to size. No stopping halfway through to grab a saw. No last-minute adjustments. Everything is ready to go. This step alone saves them so much time, because once you start assembling, you want things to flow smoothly. Imagine trying to build a bookshelf and having to stop every few minutes to measure and cut another board. That's not building, that's chaos. Instead, the Amish cut everything in advance. Then they lay it all out like puzzle pieces waiting to be snapped together. And here's the bonus: pre-cutting also reduces mistakes. If something doesn't fit right, they catch it early, not after they've glued half the structure together. That's why they dry fit everything first, just like a dress rehearsal before the big show. They put each piece together without glue or nails, just to check alignment. If something's off, they fix it now, not later. This step keeps the final assembly smooth and mistake-free. Also, because they plan ahead, they waste less wood. Every inch is used efficiently. Scraps are kept for smaller projects. Nothing goes to waste. It's eco-friendly, frugal, and smart, all at the same time. So what does this mean for speed? Simple. When your design is clean, your cuts are precise, and your pieces are ready to go, building becomes effortless. You're not fighting with mismatched parts or struggling to make things fit. You're just putting things together, like snapping Legos into place. That's the Amish way. They don't need fancy machines or high-tech tools. Just a clear plan, sharp blades, and years of practice. And while it may look slow to the untrained eye, it's actually lightning-fast craftsmanship. Because preparation isn't about slowing things down. It's about speeding up the entire process by eliminating mistakes and streamlining each step. So while the rest of us are fumbling around with measuring tape and looking for the right drill bit, the Amish are already halfway through building a sturdy dining table. Impressive, right? In short, efficient design and pre-cutting are where the Amish really shine. They save time, they reduce errors, and they create furniture that's built to last. And best of all, they do it all without breaking a sweat. You ever tried assembling a bookshelf from IKEA? You know how it goes. You open the box, dump out all the pieces, and then stare at the instruction manual like it's written in another language. There's always that one screw that doesn't fit, or a joint that just won't line up no matter how hard you push. Now imagine building something even stronger, but without any screws, nails, or power tools. Sounds impossible, right? But that's exactly what the Amish do, and they do it fast. How? They use traditional joinery, centuries-old techniques that lock wood together like puzzle pieces. No glue, no screws, just pure craftsmanship. It's like magic, only real. So what kind of joints are we talking about? Well, there's the famous dovetail joint. You've probably seen this one if you've ever looked closely at a drawer. It looks like two pieces of wood are holding hands, tight, snug, and not going anywhere. Then there's the mortise and tenon, another classic. One piece has a little bump, the tenon, and the other has a hole carved out to fit it perfectly, the mortise. Slide them together and boom, solid connection. These aren't just fancy names. These joints have been around for hundreds of years because they work really well. No wobbly legs, no creaky tables, just rock-solid furniture. And here's the kicker. Once you know how to do it, these joints can actually be faster than using screws or nails. Because think about it. How many times have you stripped a screw, or dropped one behind the couch, or worse, tried to drive a nail into hardwood only to end up with a crack? The Amish skip all that mess. They don't need power drills or hammers. They just cut the wood so precisely that it fits together on its own, like putting together a jigsaw puzzle where every piece was made for each other. But how do they do that? Simple. Practice. Amish kids learn woodworking young. By the time they're adults, they've built hundreds, maybe even thousands, of pieces. So when they make a dovetail joint, they don't measure twice and cut once. They just cut once. They know exactly how much pressure to apply, which tool to grab next, where to place the clamp. It's muscle memory, pure and simple, and that's what makes their joinery look effortless. Another cool thing, these joints let the wood breathe. Unlike metal screws, which can rust or break over time, wood-to-wood joints expand and contract naturally with the seasons. So your Amish table won't crack in the winter or swell in the summer. It'll just keep getting better with age, kind of like a fine wine, or your grandma's apple pie recipe. Also, because they don't use metal fasteners, the furniture feels more natural. Smoother, cleaner, no sharp edges from exposed screws, no rust stains, just clean lines and seamless connections. And honestly, it just looks nicer. There's something special about knowing a chair was built without a single nail. It tells a story of patience, skill, and tradition. That's why Amish furniture isn't just furniture. It's heirloom quality craftsmanship passed down through generations. And guess what? You don't have to be Amish to try this yourself. If you're into woodworking, give traditional joinery a shot. Start with a simple dovetail or mortise and tenon. Use hand tools. Take your time. You might be surprised how strong and how fast your results can be. After all, sometimes the old ways really are the best ways. And the Amish prove that every day. So you've got your wood selected, you've prepped it, you've cut it to size. Now what? Time for one of the most underrated but essential steps in furniture making: sanding and smoothing. You might think this is just a finishing touch, but trust me, it's way more than that. This is where rough turns to refined, where jagged edges become silky, smooth surfaces, and where every inch of that beautiful hardwood gets its final polish before the finish. The Amish don't skip this step. They know that even the strongest joint or the best design won't matter if the surface feels like sandpaper or looks uneven. So how do they do it? By hand, of course, and with a level of care that makes all the difference. They start by sanding each piece individually. No rushing, no half measures, just steady, patient strokes that bring out the natural beauty of the wood grain. They use different grits of sandpaper, starting coarse and working their way up to fine. First, they remove any rough spots or tool marks from cutting and shaping. Then they smooth everything out so it feels soft to the touch. It's kind of like skincare for wood. Exfoliate, refine, glow up. Now, some people might use an electric sander and call it a day, but the Amish take a slower, more hands-on approach. They often use sanding blocks, or just their fingers wrapped in sandpaper to keep pressure even, and avoid rounding off sharp edges unintentionally. And here's the cool thing, because they're not using machines, they have total control over the process. They can feel every imperfection, every little bump or ridge. That means no surprises later when the furniture is already built. Once the first round of sanding is done, they inspect each piece closely. If something still feels rough, they go back and work on it until it's perfect. No detail is too small, no corner too hidden to ignore. Because remember, this isn't just about looks. It's also about function. A chair with a splintered edge isn't comfortable. A table with a rough underside could scratch a floor or tear a cloth. So they make sure every surface, top, bottom, sides, is ready for what comes next. And here's another bonus. This step helps them spot any hidden flaws in the wood. Knots, cracks, or slight warps that weren't obvious before now show up clearly under the sanding process. If needed, they'll fill those tiny imperfections with wood putty, or simply adjust the design to hide them naturally. That's the thing about handmade furniture. It doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. In fact, those little quirks are what give each piece its own character. Once the sanding is done and everything looks good, they wipe down each piece with a clean cloth to remove dust and debris, because nothing ruins a fresh finish like leftover sawdust stuck in the stain. This attention to detail sets the stage for the next big moment, staining and finishing. But before we get there, let's just say the Amish aren't just smoothing the wood for fun. They're setting themselves up for success. Smooth surfaces take stain evenly. Rough surfaces absorb more in some areas, leaving streaks or blotches. So this step ensures the final product looks polished and professional. Not like a rushed DIY project from someone who Googled how to refinish a table 5 minutes ago. Also, because they do this step early, before full assembly, they can reach every angle without having to fight around joints or tight corners. Smart, right? It's just another example of how the Amish plan ahead to make things easier later. No shortcuts, no mistakes, just careful, thoughtful preparation. And while it may look slow to the untrained eye, it actually speeds things up in the long run. Because once the pieces are smooth, the final steps flow effortlessly. No rework, no do-overs, just pure craftsmanship. So while the rest of us might rush through sanding just to get to the fun part, the Amish know better. They take their time. They treat every stroke like it matters. And in the end, it shows. In short, sanding and smoothing isn't just about making furniture look pretty. It's about creating something that feels great to touch, lasts longer, and gives the finishing touches room to shine. And the Amish? They've mastered it like nobody else. Once the Amish furniture is fully assembled, sanded, and looking like a masterpiece waiting to shine, it's time for one of the final and most beautiful steps: staining and finishing. This isn't just about making the wood look pretty. Oh no! This step brings out the natural beauty of the grain, protects the furniture from wear and tear, and gives each piece that warm, rich glow that makes Amish furniture so special. But here's the kicker. They don't use harsh chemicals or artificial sprays. Nope. They stick with natural finishes like linseed oil, tung oil, and sometimes even beeswax. These aren't fancy lab-made products you find on store shelves. These are simple, time-tested solutions that have been used for generations. And they work really well. So how do the Amish apply these finishes? Let's break it down. First, they grab a soft cloth or brush and start applying the stain or oil slowly and evenly. They don't rush this part. It's like painting a canvas. Only instead of colours, they're working with nature's own patterns. They rub the oil into the wood, letting it soak in deeply. This doesn't just give the furniture a nice finish. It actually strengthens the wood from the inside out. And because the Amish know their stuff, they apply multiple coats. Each layer gets a chance to dry completely before the next one goes on. No shortcuts, just slow, careful work that pays off big time in the end. You might be thinking, why not just use a quick drying spray like the rest of us? Well, here's why. Those fast-drying finishes often sit on top of the wood, but oils like linseed and tung oil sink in, protecting the wood from the inside. That means less cracking, less warping, and furniture that lasts way longer than anything you'd buy off the shelf. Plus, there's another bonus: no chemical fumes. Ever tried staining a piece of furniture and ended up with a headache from the smell? Yeah, the Amish avoid all that. Their workshops smell like fresh wood and beeswax, not paint thinner and regret. Now, here's where things get even cooler. The Amish often mix their own finishes. Like chefs with secret recipes, they blend oils and waxes to create custom finishes tailored to each specific piece of furniture. Some add a bit more beeswax for extra shine. Others might tweak the ratio of linseed to tung oil depending on the type of wood. It's like having a signature style, but for furniture. And while it might sound complicated, the idea is simple. Make the finish match the character of the wood. Some pieces come out golden and light. Others turn deep brown, almost like chocolate. It all depends on the type of wood, the number of coats, and the oils used. Another thing the Amish love about this process, it highlights the wood's natural imperfections. Knots, swirls, little blemishes. These aren't flaws to them, they're features. They give each piece its own personality, its own story. That's what sets Amish furniture apart. It doesn't look mass-produced. It feels alive, like something made by real hands, not machines. And when you run your fingers across a finished Amish table or chair, it's smooth, not slick, not plasticky, just silky, warm wood that feels good to touch. They even polish it at the end. A final rub down with a clean cloth or a bit of wax adds that last layer of protection and shine. It's like giving your furniture a hug before sending it out into the world. No matter if it's a dining table, a rocking chair, or a simple wooden box. This final touch makes it feel complete. And here's the best part. You don't need any fancy tools to do it. Just oil, a cloth, and a little patience. Because let's face it, we live in a world where everything moves fast, but some things like good furniture are worth slowing down for. And the Amish have figured that out better than anyone. They take pride in every step. From selecting the perfect wood to hand cutting each joint, and finally to finishing it with care. Every coat of oil, every stroke of the cloth tells a story of tradition, of skill, of craftsmanship passed down through generations. So while the rest of us might reach for a can of glossy spray paint, the Amish stick with what works: natural finishes, time-honoured techniques, and a whole lot of heart. And in the end, it shows. The furniture doesn't just last longer, it looks better, feels better, and most importantly, it tells a story of simplicity, of quality, of doing things the right way, not the fast way. And that's exactly why Amish furniture continues to be so highly valued. Not because it's trendy, but because it's timeless. You ever tried doing something for the first time and it took forever? Like cooking your favourite pasta dish from scratch or assembling a new shelf from IKEA. You know how it goes. You fumble through the steps, double-check the instructions, maybe even lose a screw somewhere between step 3 and 4. Now imagine doing that same thing, but with no instructions, no power tools, and using only hand tools passed down through generations. Sounds slow, right? But somehow, the Amish pull it off faster than most people can with modern tools and machines. So how do they do it? Well, here's the secret sauce: experience and workflow. Let's start with experience, because when you've been doing something since you were a kid, you tend to get pretty good at it. Amish children grow up around woodworking. They watch their parents, uncles, and grandparents build furniture by hand. Then they start helping, sanding small pieces, holding boards steady, maybe even making simple cuts under supervision. By the time they're adults, they've already built hundreds, maybe even thousands of pieces. So when they pick up a chisel or saw, it's like breathing. No hesitation, no second guessing. They don't need a measuring tape for every cut. They don't have to think twice about which tool to use next. Their hands just know what to do. That kind of muscle memory is gold. Think of it like typing without looking at the keyboard. At first, you hunt and peck. It takes forever. But after years of practice, your fingers fly across the keys without thinking. Same thing with Amish woodworkers. After decades of doing the same motions over and over, they move fast. Not because they're rushing, but because they've done it so many times it becomes second nature. And here's the best part. This isn't just about speed, it's about precision. They know exactly how much pressure to apply, which blade to grab, how deep to cut, whether the grain will splinter if they go too fast. That's why their joints fit perfectly. That's why their furniture looks flawless. But experience alone doesn't explain everything. There's another big reason they work so fast: workflow. If you walk into an Amish workshop, one of the first things you'll notice is how organized it is. Tools are neatly arranged. Wood is stacked by type and size. Everything has its place. No clutter, no wasted space, just smooth, efficient movement. Because let's be real, nothing kills productivity faster than searching for a missing chisel or trying to find the right clamp in a pile of tools. The Amish avoid that mess by keeping things tidy and accessible. Every item is within reach. Every step flows naturally into the next. It's like a well-choreographed dance. No awkward pauses, no unnecessary moves. They prep all the wood in advance. They cut every piece before assembly. They sand each board before joining them together. That way, when it's time to build, there's no stopping to measure or adjust. Everything is ready to go. It's not magic, it's planning. And the result? Furniture comes together fast and flawlessly. Another trick? They minimize movement. In most workshops, you'll see people walking back and forth, reaching for tools, bending down to grab scraps. Those little actions add up and waste time. The Amish set up their workspace so everything is close by. They don't waste energy on extra steps. They stay focused on the task at hand. They also pre-plan every step of the process. Before they even touch a tool, they visualize how the whole project will unfold. What needs to be done first? What comes next? Where each piece will go. This means fewer mistakes, less rework, more flow. And while it may look slow to the outside eye, it's actually lightning-fast craftsmanship. Because once you've mastered the basics and streamlined your process, building becomes effortless. You don't fight the tools. You don't struggle with measurements. You just build. That's the Amish way. They don't rely on fancy gadgets or high-tech shortcuts. Just skill, practice, and a well-organized workflow. And honestly, that's something we could all learn from. Whether you're a weekend DIYer or a full-time woodworker, the lesson is clear. Practice makes perfect. Planning saves time. And sometimes, doing things the old-fashioned way is actually the fastest route to getting it right. So there you have it, the secret behind how the Amish build stunning, rock-solid furniture by hand in under 60 minutes. It's not magic, it's not luck. It's skill, tradition, and decades, sometimes centuries, of hands-on experience passed down through generations. From selecting the perfect hardwood like it's grandma's apple pie recipe, to prepping every piece with precision, using time-tested joinery techniques that make screws and nails obsolete, and finishing each item with natural oils that bring out the wood's true beauty. Every step is about quality, not shortcuts. And what makes it even more impressive? They do it all without power tools, without glue guns, and without rushing. Just steady hands, sharp tools, and a deep respect for craftsmanship. You don't have to be Amish to learn from this process. Whether you're into minimalist living, looking for eco-friendly furniture, or just love the idea of making something with your own two hands, there's something here for everyone. Because at the end of the day, Amish furniture isn't just furniture. It's a legacy. It's built to last generations. It tells a story of patience, care, and pride in your work. So next time you see a piece of Amish-made furniture, take a closer look. Run your fingers over the smooth surface. Notice the grain. Feel the weight of it. That's not just wood. That's history. That's heart. And now, thanks to this video, you know exactly how it got that way. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Amish craftsmanship, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video on traditional skills, sustainable living, and timeless craftsmanship. Let me know in the comments. Would you ever try building your own furniture by hand? Or maybe you've already given it a shot. Tell us your story. Until next time, Stay curious, stay crafty, and keep building smarter.